The first shadow fell over Tokyo at 3:47 p.m. local time. Dr. Amara Patel, monitoring solar activity at NASA's Deep Space Network facility in Canberra, initially dismissed the massive reading as an equipment malfunction. But when similar readings came in from Madrid and Goldstone, her heart nearly stopped. Something was blocking out the sun in perfect intervals around the globe. "This can't be right," she muttered, her fingers flying across 3 separate keyboards. The orbital tracking system was reporting objects, no, beings, each roughly 100 feet tall, descending through the atmosphere in formation. They weren't using ships. They were just falling. Halfway across the world, Colonel James Blackwood stood on the flight line at Edwards Air Force Base, squinting at the California sky as it darkened unnaturally. 20 years of military service hadn't prepared him for the sight of a humanoid figure tall as a 10-story building, gracefully dropping through the clouds like a skydiver in slow motion. The being's skin seemed to shift colors like oil on water, and its proportions were almost human-like, but stretched to impossible dimensions. As it descended, James could make out what appeared to be some kind of crystalline architecture growing across its surface, not clothing or armor, but something that seemed to be part of its biological structure. Within hours, 37 of these giants had landed at seemingly random points across the globe. They made no aggressive moves, but their mere presence sent humanity into chaos. Stock markets crashed within minutes. Religious leaders proclaimed both doom and salvation. Military forces worldwide mobilized, but maintained distance. How do you threaten something that could crush a tank under its foot? Dr. Patel found herself quickly pulled into the hastily assembled first contact analysis team, working alongside linguists, physicists, and military strategists in a secured facility beneath the Pentagon. Her expertise in analyzing deep space signals had suddenly become Earth's best hope for understanding these beings' method of arrival, and perhaps their intentions. The energy readings just before they appeared, she explained to the assembled team, pointing to her data, suggest they didn't just travel through space, they manipulated it. These beings can fold spacetime like we fold paper. Colonel Blackwood, now serving as military liaison to the science team, leaned forward. That's why they didn't need ships. Their bodies are their vehicles. Exactly, Amara nodded, but here's what's fascinating. They're still doing it, even standing still. Each giant is continuously generating microscopic spacetime fluctuations. It's how they support their massive size against Earth's gravity. They should be collapsing under their own weight, but they're basically creating their own localized physics. The first attempt at communication came from the giant that landed near Geneva. It raised one massive hand, and the air before it shimmered into what could only be described as a three-dimensional display of pure light. Symbols and geometric patterns danced in sequences that mathematicians worldwide began working to decode. But it was Dr. Ryota Tanaka, a quantum computing specialist from Kyoto University, who first recognized the pattern. "They're not sending us a message," he announced during an emergency UN broadcast. "They're showing us a proof, the fundamental mathematics of their space-folding technology. They're teaching us." As the world waited and watched, more giants began creating similar displays. Each one showed different aspects of their incredible science: gravity manipulation, energy generation, matter transformation. It seemed like an offering of knowledge, but Colonel Blackwood wasn't convinced it was benevolent. "Think about it," he said during a late-night strategy session with Dr. Patel. When European explorers first contacted native peoples, they often showed off their advanced technology too. It wasn't always a prelude to peaceful cultural exchange. Amara rubbed her tired eyes, staring at the latest readings from the giant nearest to their facility. "But why share their secrets if they mean us harm? They could crush our cities without teaching us anything." "Unless," James replied grimly, "what they're teaching us is just a fraction of what they know. Maybe they're lifting us up just enough to be useful to them." As if in response to his words, all 37 giants simultaneously raised their hands toward the sky. The displays they'd been generating merged into a single, massive projection visible from anywhere on Earth. And in that moment, humanity realized this was only the beginning. The image showed our solar system, then zoomed out to reveal something that made every human witness gasp in unified horror, a massive armada of even larger beings, waiting just beyond Neptune's orbit. The 100-foot giants weren't the invasion. They were the advance team. Understanding giants. The revelation of the approaching armada changed everything. Dr. Patel's laboratory transformed overnight into a war room, screens displaying real-time calculations of the larger aliens' trajectory. Based on their current speed, Earth had roughly 72 hours before they arrived. Their size is difficult to comprehend, she explained to the emergency UN Security Council meeting, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. The beings approaching us appear to be roughly 10 times larger than our current visitors. We're looking at entities nearly 1,000 feet tall. William Morrison, the British representative, leaned forward. And how much damage could one of these beings do? A single footstep could level downtown Manhattan, Colonel Blackwood interjected, his usual military stoicism cracking. But that's assuming they even need to touch down to destroy us. These beings manipulate the fabric of reality itself. The 37 giants already on Earth continued their demonstrations, their luminous displays growing more complex and urgent. Dr. Tanaka worked tirelessly with a global team of physicists and mathematicians, racing to understand the principles being shown to them. It's like they're teaching a caveman how to build a nuclear reactor, he explained during a brief break, dark circles under his eyes. We can grasp the basic concepts, but implementing them with our current technology? It would take decades. But on the third morning, something changed. The giant near Moscow began generating a different kind of display, not mathematical formulas, but images. They showed scenes of devastation on alien worlds, planets cracking apart, entire solar systems being consumed by something that defied description. They're not invaders, Dr. Patel whispered, watching the footage with growing horror. They're refugees. And they're running from something worse than themselves. The truth emerged piece by piece through the giants' visual narratives. They were the last survivors of a civilization that had once spanned multiple galaxies. Their massive size was an adaptation, a desperate biological evolution to combat an enemy that devoured energy itself. The approaching armada wasn't an invasion force, it was all that remained of their species. They need Earth, Colonel Blackwood concluded during an emergency briefing. Not to conquer it, but to protect it. They're setting up a defense network against whatever destroyed their civilization. The displays showed more details of the enemy, regions of space where physics itself seemed to break down, where light and matter simply ceased to exist. This cosmic horror had already consumed thousands of worlds, and it was spreading across the universe like a cancer. Dr. Tanaka made another breakthrough in understanding their communications. The mathematics they're teaching us, it's not just about space manipulation. They're showing us how to reinforce the fundamental forces of our reality. They want us to help them build a wall around our solar system. But the cooperation wouldn't be simple. The process would require massive amounts of energy, more than Earth's entire power grid could generate in a century. The giants were offering to provide this energy from their own bodies, but there was a catch. The process will kill them, Dr. Patel announced to a stunned audience of world leaders. All 37 of our visitors, and the thousands approaching, will sacrifice themselves to create this defensive barrier. They've chosen our solar system as humanity's last stand against the void. Colonel Blackwood studied the latest simulations with a grim expression. So either we accept their sacrifice and try to prepare for this cosmic horror, or we refuse and face extinction when it eventually reaches us anyway. The giants' displays shifted again, showing a timeline. The enemy they fled would reach Earth's galaxy within a century. Without the barrier, humanity would have no defense against it. With the barrier, we might have a fighting chance, if we could advance our technology enough using what the giants were teaching us. Dr. Tanaka worked furiously at his equations. There might be a third option. If we could modify their barrier design, create a more efficient energy transfer. He looked up at his colleagues with desperate hope. We might be able to save some of them. Not all, but some. As the armada drew closer, humanity faced its greatest decision. Accept the alien sacrifice and inherit their knowledge, modify their plan and try to save some of them, or refuse their offer and try to face the cosmic horror alone. The giants waited patiently for Earth's answer, their massive forms casting long shadows across the continents as the sun set. In their crystalline structures, complex patterns shifted and swirled, perhaps reflecting their own thoughts and emotions about their proposed sacrifice. Time was running out. The void that had consumed their civilization was spreading across the universe, and Earth needed to choose its path forward. The weight of this decision rested not just on the world leaders, but on the scientists and military strategists who best understood what humanity faced. In her lab, Dr. Patel watched the approaching armada through her telescopes, wondering if the price of survival was worth the burden it would place on humanity's conscience. The giants had chosen Earth not just as a battleground, but as the inheritors of their legacy. Whether humanity was ready for such responsibility remained to be seen. The Great Decision. The world's greatest minds gathered in a hastily constructed facility beneath the Swiss Alps, racing against time as the armada approached Earth's orbit. Dr. Patel stood before a wall of monitors, each showing different simulations of Dr. Tanaka's modified barrier design. The math is solid, she announced to the assembled leaders, scientists, and military commanders. By reconfiguring the energy distribution network, we can reduce the number of necessary sacrifices by 60%. But... She paused, her voice heavy, we'd need volunteers from Earth to help stabilize the barrier. Colonel Blackwood stepped forward. How many volunteers? 1,000, Dr. Tanaka answered, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted his glasses. 1,000 humans, working in direct neural connection with the giants. The energy transfer would be intense. Survival isn't guaranteed. The room erupted in heated debate. Nations argued over quota distributions, methods of selecting volunteers, and the ethics of accepting such a sacrifice. But a quiet voice cut through the chaos. Lieutenant Olivia Reed, a quantum physicist turned military strategist, had been silently analyzing the data for hours. We're missing something, she said, pointing to a particular sequence in the giants' mathematical proofs. These equations aren't just about building a barrier. They're about transformation. The giants had been watching Earth's deliberations through their own mysterious means of observation. Now, as if responding to Lieutenant Reed's insight, they began a new series of demonstrations. Their crystalline structures pulsed with deeper, more complex patterns, and their light displays showed something extraordinary. The images revealed the true nature of their plan. The barrier wouldn't just be a wall, it would be a cocoon. The combined energy of their sacrifices, merged with human consciousness, would trigger an evolutionary leap in Earth's defensive capabilities. The entire solar system would become a living fortress. They're not just trying to save us, Dr. Patel breathed, understanding dawning in her eyes. They're trying to create something entirely new. A hybrid defense that combines their space-folding abilities with human adaptability and innovation. World leaders watched in awe as the giants showed simulations of what Earth would become. The barrier would infuse the planet itself with the ability to manipulate space-time. Humanity would become the guardians of a living solar system, armed with the power to fight back against the cosmic horror that had consumed so many other worlds. Colonel Blackwood studied the tactical implications. We wouldn't just be hiding behind a wall. We'd be building a fortress that could actually strike back at this thing. But the price. The price was staggering. Even with Dr. Tanaka's modifications, thousands of giants would still need to sacrifice themselves. The human volunteers would need to endure a transformation that would change them forever. And there was no guarantee of success. But as the hours ticked by, something unprecedented began to happen. People from around the world, having watched the giants' demonstrations through global broadcasts, started coming forward. Volunteers flooded military bases and scientific installations, not just scientists and soldiers, but teachers, artists, factory workers, farmers. Humanity, faced with extinction, was choosing to fight. Lieutenant Reed developed a selection protocol, looking not just for physical or intellectual capabilities, but for specific types of neural patterns that would best synchronize with the giant's energy. The chosen 1,000 came from every corner of the globe, every walk of life. The giants seemed to approve. Their displays showed new information, detailed instructions for preparing the volunteers, constructing the necessary facilities, and coordinating the global energy grid that would channel their sacrifice into Earth's transformation. Dr. Patel worked with the volunteers, explaining what they would face. Your consciousness will be expanded beyond normal human limits. You'll experience reality the way they do, as a malleable thing that can be folded and shaped. Some of you will become living anchors for the barrier. Others will be transformed into something we can barely comprehend. The giants began positioning themselves around the planet in a precise geometric pattern. The armada, now visible to the naked eye, split into smaller groups, each taking up specific positions throughout the solar system. They were creating a vast, complex network that would channel their combined energy. As the final preparations were made, humanity held its breath. In less than 24 hours, the transformation would begin. Either Earth would become humanity's last fortress against a cosmic horror, or the attempt would fail, leaving the planet defenseless. Dr. Tanaka, working until the last moment to refine his calculations, finally looked up from his equations. It's not just about survival anymore, he said softly. We're about to become something more than human, more than giant. We're about to become the universe's immune system. The volunteers took their positions in facilities around the globe. The giants began to glow with building energy. And in the depths of space, at the edge of human perception, the cosmic horror that had consumed so many worlds sensed that something was different about this prey. This time, its meal was preparing to fight back. Operation Titan's Fall. The transformation began at dawn. 1,000 human volunteers lay in crystalline chambers, their minds linked to the giants through technology that blended alien mathematics with Earth's quantum computers. Dr. Patel monitored the neural feeds, her fingers dancing across holographic displays as she tracked the first signs of change. Lieutenant Reed, who had insisted on being among the volunteers, was the first to scream. Not in pain, but in awe. Her consciousness expanded beyond her body, touching the vast network of giant minds that encircled the Earth. Through their eyes, she saw reality as it truly was, a flowing tapestry of spacetime that could be folded, stretched, and reformed. The barrier is initializing, Dr. Tanaka announced, his voice steady despite the tremendous energies building around the planet. First phase transformation in 3, 2, 1. The giants began to dissolve. Their massive bodies transformed into pure energy, flowing through the geometric patterns they had established around Earth. The armada followed suit, each 1,000-foot being becoming a stream of luminescent power that connected to the growing network. Colonel Blackwood watched from the command center as the sky turned into a cascade of colors that human eyes had never seen before. Status of the volunteers. Their minds are expanding, Dr. Patel reported, her eyes wide as she read the incoming data. They're becoming the control system for the barrier. Their human consciousness is merging with the giant's knowledge, creating something entirely new. The transformation rippled across the solar system. Jupiter's storms began moving in impossible patterns, its massive bulk becoming a gravitational anchor for the barrier. Mars's surface crystallized, transforming into a vast sensor array. Even the sun's plasma flows shifted, channeled by the dying giant's final gift into a weapon humanity could wield. But in the void between stars, something noticed. The cosmic horror that had consumed countless civilizations turned its unfathomable attention toward Earth. It sensed the transformation, recognized the defense being born, and for the first time in its existence, it faced potential resistance. Lieutenant Reed, her consciousness now spread across the forming barrier, was the first to sense its approach. "It's coming," her voice echoed through the command network, no longer entirely human. "It's curious. It's never encountered prey that fought back." The horror struck first at Jupiter, attempting to digest the gas giant's newly weaponized storms. But the volunteers, their minds enhanced by the giant's sacrifice, were ready. Using their new understanding of space-time manipulation, they turned Jupiter's gravity into a trap. "Now!" Dr. Patel shouted, activating the final phase of the transformation. The 1,000 volunteers, their human bodies now merely anchors for their expanded consciousness, reached out with their combined will. They caught the horror in a web of warped spacetime, using Jupiter's massive gravitational field to hold it in place. Then, drawing upon the power of the dying giants, they began to teach it something it had never experienced before: pain. Solar plasma, channeled through crystalline structures that defied physics, struck at the horror's substance. The void that had consumed worlds found itself being consumed, torn apart by weapons built from the very forces of nature it had once devoured. "We're not just defending," Colonel Blackwood realized, watching the battle through enhanced sensors. "We're pushing it back. We're making it fear us." The horror recoiled, its unfathomable bulk writhing in space as it encountered true resistance for the first time. It tried to retreat, to flee back to the darkness between stars, but the barrier had already closed behind it. Earth's solar system had become a trap, a killing ground for something that had only known victory. Lieutenant Reed's consciousness, spread across the barrier, felt the horror's confusion turn to fear. "It doesn't understand," her voice echoed through the command network. "It's always been the predator. It never imagined becoming prey." The battle raged across the solar system. The volunteers, their minds expanded beyond human limits, wielded powers that seemed like magic but were born of the giant's mathematical certainties. They turned asteroid fields into shrapnel, accelerated by warped spacetime to impossible velocities. They shaped magnetic fields into blades that cut through the horror's substance. But the horror was ancient, powerful, and desperate. It lashed out with forces that threatened to tear planets apart. Mars's crystalline surface cracked. Jupiter's storms wavered. And on Earth, the volunteers' human bodies began to show the strain of channeling such enormous energies. Dr. Tanaka worked frantically at his equations, trying to find a way to stabilize the system. "We're losing cohesion in sectors 7 through 13. The human minds can't handle the load much longer." Dr. Patel stared at her readings, then at the vast battle raging across space. A plan formed in her mind, dangerous, possibly suicidal, but potentially decisive. "We need to synchronize," she announced. "Not just the volunteers, not just the barrier. Everyone on Earth needs to join their consciousness to the network. We need to become one mind, one will, one weapon." Colonel Blackwood understood immediately. A global neural link. The psychic shock could drive humanity mad. "Or it could give us the strength we need to finish this," Dr. Patel countered. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to become something new, something stronger. Isn't that what the giants were trying to teach us?" As alarms blared and the barrier strained against the horror's assault, humanity faced its moment of truth. The giants had given them power. The volunteers had shown them the way. Now, Earth had to decide: remain human and possibly fail, or transcend their limitations and become something the universe had never seen before. A new dawn. Dr. Patel's plan spread across the global communications network like wildfire. Billions of humans, watching the battle rage across their solar system, faced a choice that would forever alter the course of their species. The horror's attacks grew more desperate, more violent, as if sensing the crucial moment approaching. "Everyone has to agree," Dr. Tanaka insisted, broadcasting to every screen, every device on Earth. "The synchronization has to be voluntary, or the neural feedback could tear minds apart." Nations set aside their differences. Religious leaders found common ground in survival. From the largest cities to the smallest villages, humanity prepared for something unprecedented, a voluntary merger of consciousness on a planetary scale. Lieutenant Reed, her expanded mind still helping coordinate the barrier's defense, reached out to the world. "I can show you what I see," her voice echoed in the minds of billions. "The universe is more beautiful, more terrible, and more alive than we ever imagined. But we don't have to face it alone." The horror struck again, its attack cracking Mars's crystalline surface and sending devastating ripples through spacetime. Several volunteers screamed as their neural connections overloaded. The barrier flickered dangerously. Colonel Blackwood, watching Earth's defenses strain, made his decision. "Begin the synchronization. We do this now, or we don't get another chance." Dr. Patel activated the global quantum network that the Giant's technology had helped create. Across the planet, humans felt the first touch of collective consciousness. It began subtly, a whisper of shared thought, a glimpse of billions of perspectives merging into one vast, complex mind. The experience was overwhelming. Some fought against it instinctively, their individual egos recoiling from the merger. But as more minds joined, something remarkable happened. Instead of losing themselves, people found their individuality enhanced by the connection. Each person became a unique note in a symphony of consciousness that stretched across the planet. "We are becoming," Dr. Tanaka whispered, his individual voice joining the growing chorus of human thought. "Not just what the Giants hoped we would be, but something more." The horror sensed the change. It pulled back from Mars, gathering its impossible substance for one final, devastating attack. But now it faced not just 1,000 enhanced minds, but billions of human consciousness working in perfect harmony. Earth's transformed solar system responded to humanity's unified will. Jupiter's storms spiraled into weapons of unprecedented power. The sun's plasma formed architectures of light and energy that defied comprehension. Even the asteroid belt became a swarm of crystalline projectiles, each guided by the mathematical precision the Giants had taught them. The horror struck, and humanity struck back. The battle that followed defied description in human language. Billions of minds, working as one, wielded forces that could reshape reality itself. The horror found itself not just fighting for victory, but fighting for survival against prey that had become predator. Lieutenant Reed, her consciousness now just one bright thread in humanity's vast tapestry, felt the horror's confidence turn to confusion, then to fear, and finally to something like despair. "It understands now," her thought rippled through the collective. "It understands what the Giants saw in us." The horror tried to retreat, but the barrier had become more than just a wall. It was an expression of humanity's unified will, powered by the Giants' sacrifice and guided by the mathematical truths they had taught. There would be no escape. Dr. Patel, her individual mind still maintaining crucial calculations, felt the moment approaching. Together, she thought, and billions answered, together. The final strike combined everything humanity had learned, the giant space-folding mathematics, Earth's transformed planetary defenses, and the power of billions of minds working as one. The horror, the cosmic force that had consumed civilizations and devoured whole galaxies, found itself being unmade by beings it had once considered mere prey. As the horror died, its substance scattered across spacetime, humanity faced a new reality. The barrier remained, not just as a defense but as a testament to what they had become. The giant's sacrifice had given them power, but humanity's choice to unite had transformed them into something unprecedented in the universe. Colonel Blackwood, standing in the command center, watched the reading stabilize. "What are we now?" he wondered aloud. Dr. Tanaka smiled, his consciousness both individual and part of the greater whole. "We are the guardians," he said. "Not just of Earth, but of life itself." The giants chose well. The transformed solar system pulsed with new energy, new purpose. Humanity had not just survived, they had evolved. Their consciousness could remain individual or merge at will. Their technology, born from the giants' knowledge and human innovation, gave them power to reshape reality itself. And in the vast darkness between the stars, other horrors sensed that something had changed. The prey had become protector, the hunters would become hunted, and a new force for life and order had emerged in the universe. Dr. Patel, looking out at the crystalline structures that now orbited Earth like luminous webs, thought of the giants who had sacrificed everything to give humanity this chance. "We'll make you proud," she whispered to their memory, and billions of minds echoed her promise. The sun rose on a transformed Earth, its light playing across cities that now pulsed with crystalline energy. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or victims, but as guardians of life itself. The giants' legacy lived on, and the cosmos would never be the same.